Hello my quilting friends! My name is Leah Day and I have created a really fun quilting tutorial for you today. I want to teach you how to quilt Crazy Ziggie, and it's this really fun zigzaggy design, and we're going to learn how to stitch this with two different forms of quilting. So we're going to learn first how to quilt this with walking foot style quilting, which is an easier beginner level of quilting, and then we're going to switch out to ruler foot quilting. So let's get started learning how to quilt Crazy Ziggie together. So I'm quilting Crazy Ziggie, and as you can see, this is a totally freeform zigzag design. And the wonderful thing about it is it gives you an opportunity to stitch straight lines and sharp angles, not have to worry about spacing things particularly, just simply stitch it straight across your quilting space, zigzags however you want to stitch them. Now, something I just noticed was happening a few times right here. I was getting a little bit of a wild first stitch, and this is something that I mentioned in the Walking Foot book. And it's something that can happen whenever you're shifting and pivoting the quilt. So let me try and show you what I mean in a more extreme way. So I was shifting to change direction, so like shifting it over like this. Well, there can be sometimes a little bit of tension that you put on the quilt whenever you shift it over. Really good thing to get in the habit of is lifting your foot. I'm lifting here with my knee lifter, but you could always reach behind and lift the foot slightly, and make sure your needle is in center position. Because sometimes when you shift, you can subtly be putting pressure on the foot, and that's also pressure on the needle. And sometimes that can cause the first stitch that you take after repositioning to be slightly bigger or slightly off center. Every once in a while I get an email from somebody and they're like, why is the first stitch I take always just wild, like way off from where I want it to be? Most of the time it's caused by pushing too hard against the quilt and causing that needle to shift out of center position. So watch out for that as you're quilting a design like this where you have lots of direction changes and lots of pivoting and shifting of the quilt around in order to stitch all of these angular lines. So now let's try Crazy Ziggie with a totally different style of quilting. I've attached a ruler foot here to my machine, and this is a foot that's designed to work with a ruler. You can press the ruler up against the side of the foot and use that to help you guide the quilt and the design that you're stitching. So you're definitely going to need a ruler foot and a ruler. You can find both on my website, leahday.com. So on my machine, I've actually changed my settings to be for free motion quilting, because ruler foot quilting is the style of free motion quilting. So I've changed my stitch length down to 0. That's all I've done. And then I've covered the machine bed with a queen size Supreme slider. So I've attached the ruler foot, changed my stitch length, and attached a slider. And then now I'm going to stitch along this line. And what I'm doing basically here is I'm lining up that ruler a 1/4 inch. I'm just eyeballing this, a 1/4 inch away from that straight line, and that is guiding my travel stitching. And you can see I stayed right nicely on the line there. So now I'm just going to start zigzagging down, just the exact same way that we stitched Crazy Ziggie before, only now I'm changing the angle by just shifting my ruler over. This is the slice ruler, and I'm just angling that, changing direction, and then I'm pushing both the ruler and the quilt through the machine. So this is definitely a lot of different things at once. The difference being whenever we were doing walking foot quilting, I could take my hands off the quilt and it would move whenever my needle was going up and down. Well, now that's not happening. Unless I am actually pushing on the quilt, it's not going to move. So anytime that I want to change directions, I just rotate that ruler foot over and change directions. But I have to constantly be pushing the quilt. If I want that quilt to move, I need to be pushing it. And now I can also go in all different directions. So here I'm going to set the ruler up sideways, and I'm just eyeballing it. It's not perfect, but that's good enough. I just use that to travel stitch, help guide my travel stitching. And then now I think I'm going to angle this way, bring those lines pretty close together, and then angle it way. Let's go crazy. Let's go way over here. There we go. And then bring it in what's nice is just change up where those direction changes are. It's super, super easy to start echoing what you were doing before. It's just natural. You just see that line before it, and you know, whether it's the edge of your walking foot lining up with it or the edge of the ruler lining up with it, it's just easy to start echo quilting. So it's actually hard, and I have to think about it a little bit more to really do a totally different zigzaggy line. So another thing you might notice is that my stitch length is fluctuating ever so slightly. Sometimes when I put my foot down and I don't adjust my hands, or I'm quilting a little faster with my hands and I don't adjust my speed, you know, meaning put my foot down and press a little harder on the gas, then my stitches will get kind of big. So that's something to watch out for too. This is a form of free motion quilting, so I'm going to set the ruler aside and just show you that I can stitch in all directions, and I can do that without the ruler. I'm just stitching straight lines now, straight down my quilting space. I'm just changing direction. And yes, you can do this in all different directions. I can go sideways here. It's kind of the benefit of free motion quilting or ruler foot quilting is that you don't have to rotate the quilt so much. However, do keep in mind that some machines don't like to stitch in certain directions, and if you find a particular direction that your machine likes, you know, just doesn't like, it's going to break thread if you stitch in it. So just watch out for that. Sometimes quilters are told that they should be able to quilt in all directions with free motion quilting or ruler foot quilting, and sometimes that's just not the case because your machine may not like it. So here I'm going to grab the ruler again because I do think that I stitch a little bit straighter lines when I have the ruler for assistance. And I hope you can see how fast this is. I mean, of course, this is a smaller quilt sandwich, but I am quilting it slightly denser than the other design with my walking foot. And it is a little faster because I'm able to just quickly change those directions, and I don't even have to rotate the quilt if I don't want to. I can just rotate the ruler just like so. So I'm going to leave the quilt in place and just rotate the ruler around. Let's go crazy over here. Zig it off in this direction. You know, there's always going to be upsides and downsides to every style of quilting, and that's the thing I want you to start taking away from these videos, is that it doesn't matter what style of quilting that you choose. The point is to find the style that fits best for you and gives you the effects that you want. So that's it for this video. I decided to finish off this little quilt square by stitching just some straight lines using that ruler foot quilting, and that created a really cool effect. You could kind of see this as maybe a mountain landscape now, or kind of clouds with rain. I really like that effect. It came out really good, and I think I'm going to turn this into a really simple zippered pouch. So be looking for another tutorial on how to turn any quilt sandwich, any size, into a quick and simple zippered pouch. That'll be coming up next week. So come and check out that and all of the other tutorials that I've shared so far on my website, leahday.com. There you can also find the book I've written on walking foot style quilting, Explore Walking Foot Quilting with Leah Day, as well as the ruler foot and ruler, the slice ruler that you saw in this video. So come and find all of that and much more at leahday.com. Until next time, let's go quilt.